Spider-Man, A Life Story, number 2, written by Zdarsky, art by Mark Bagley. So this is my pick of the week. Once again, loved issue 1. Liking issue 2, not as good as issue 1, but still really good and really fun. So the way this series works is that they are taking Peter Parker, and he got bit by the spider in 1962, and the entire book is going to be like his life story, sort of in real time in a way. So we're jumping to the 70s now, and it's the same Peter Parker, and we're following his life story into the 70s. So in this issue, we see that Flash Thompson, in fact, did die in Vietnam. So last issue, he was going to war in Vietnam, and it was a kind of a controversial decision. Peter Parker wasn't for it, and now Flash is dead now. Dr. Octopus is married to Aunt May, which is something that almost happened in the comics as well. And it seems to make Dr. Octopus kind of a good guy now, and he's not like an evil villain because of this. And Doc Ock is working with Peter and Reed Richards at the Future Foundation, and they are developing all sorts of various technologies. And we also see Peter and Gwen Stacy are in fact together. So MJ is not dating Peter right now. Peter is still with Gwen. So because it's the 70s, Peter goes to Club 54, where MJ is with Harry, who is passed out on drugs. And Peter and MJ argue, and MJ says Peter is too stuck up, and she blames Peter for not saving Flash in Vietnam because MJ knows that Peter is in fact Spider-Man, and she's kind of upset with Peter for not using his abilities to help Flash in the war. Peter's at work now, and he's talking to Reed Richards, and they are arguing. Peter asks Reed, why doesn't he give the gift of the unstable molecules to the world? So Reed Richards, his clothes are made out of these particular molecules, and it makes it so that his clothes are indestructible. They can't get dirty, they adapt to flame, they're stretchable. Peter's like, why don't you give this to the world? It would be very helpful to them. But Reed says that it would be irresponsible. It would affect the global markets too much. And Peter asks Reed, why do you act like you are from another planet and you can't interfere with the humans? Why do you act that you are like above everybody? And Reed says, because basically he is from another planet in a way, due to all these powers he has, and due to the powers like a lot of these superheroes have. And Peter, this answer sort of upsets him. And then Peter says, that must be why Sue left you for Namor. And then Reed slaps Peter in the face. And I thought that was a pretty good moment. I love that direction there with Sue not being with Reed and being with Namor, because Namor always had a thing for Sue. So I thought that was a fun little thing for Chip Zdarsky to do here. So Harry Osborn starts going crazy, and he becomes the Black Goblin, and he attacks Miles Warren, aka the Jackal, aka the guy who created tons of those clones in those horrible clone storylines that Spider-Man was in back in the day. So what's happening here is that Harry was supposed to collect a clone of his father that the Jackal was creating. And because Norman Osborn is in prison right now, the idea is they would pin all of Norman's crimes on this clone and say, oh, it wasn't Norman, it was this clone that did it. But this Jackal, this Miles Warren guy, he's, a little crazy, and he has also clones of Peter Parker, as well as Gwen Stacy. And, this sort of upsets Harry, so he uses his, bombs he has as this Black Goblin, and he blows up all of these clones. So the clone of Norman Osborn is dead, the clone of Peter survives, and the clone of Gwen Stacy also dies. However, we find out from Miles Warren that the clone of Gwen Stacy wasn't actually the clone. It was in fact the real Gwen Stacy. And the Gwen Stacy that is out there in the world is in fact a clone. So what ends up happening is that, the real Spider-Man, the real Peter Parker, he can't be with this clone. he can't do it. So what ends up happening is that the Peter clone that survived ended up hooking up with the Gwen clone that's out there in the world, and then they sort of go off and live a life together, and Peter Parker is now sort of alone. Harry Osborn escapes, and who knows what happened to Miles Warren, right? So that's sort of the turn of events that happen here. And then eventually Peter Parker ends up sort of reconciling with MJ, and the way this issue ends, it looks like Peter and MJ are in fact going to get together. I thought this issue was pretty good stuff, but the clone stuff got a little confusing and a little convoluted. However, that's Spider-Man's history. They had all these clone storylines that sort of messed up the continuity for a bit there. So I guess they kind of, Chip Zdarsky felt like he sort of had to deal with some of those storylines. I think they could have maybe brushed past it a little bit, but nevertheless, I still had a lot of fun in this issue. I liked various moments with various characters. I liked the Reed Richards stuff. I liked, Aunt May and Doc Ock being together. I liked these little twists on the continuity that Chip Zdarsky did. So yeah, this was a really fun issue. Really enjoying this mini series. I'm gonna give this issue an 8 out of 10.